Hey everyone, my name is Bavin. I'm a stand-up comedian based in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, as well as trying to make some roots in Montreal soon. I wanted to do a video, kind of a vlog, but also a memory for myself, but and maybe to share and maybe to inspire other people. I don't know. I'm just. It's important to bookmark your journey and try to find a way to learn the lessons or just add some perspective to where you come from, because I think a lot of times we forget where we've actually come from. And that's why maybe we have issues with our past. We have issues with, I don't know, friends, family, because we get stuck in a moment and we kind of forget the progress that we've made. And my story is, I grew up with a speech impediment. I had a stutter. I have a video about it on my YouTube. And I also think about it a lot because there wasn't any stories documenting like people who grew up with a stutter and becoming a stand-up comedian. And that story wasn't really there, or at least it wasn't well documented, and that's why I'm doing this video. It's like maybe there might be another me out there that needs to hear this story of, hey, I used to be afraid of microphones, video cameras, and public speaking because of my speech impediment, because of a stutter, and now I'm a stand-up comic. So how does that all happen? And it's a long story, and there's so many nuances and details to it, but I think one of the things that helped me overcome slowly at it, because it was really just me chipping away at it for years. I didn't just one day wake up and go, I'm going to do stand-up comedy. It was just like I kept trying to express myself in different ways. And no matter what I did that wasn't speaking, it fell flat, right? So I love writing, but it always felt flat to me compared to the experience of a stand-up comic and writing your own jokes and performing going up. So over the years, I always tried different methods and methodologies to express myself, but in parallel, I always practiced my speech. I put myself in situations where it was uncomfortable for me. So, like in grade nine in Ontario, we have to volunteer at a community organization or a center. So I volunteered at the hospital, and one of the things that was hard for me is at 14 years old, I'm still kind of stuttering. I'm really shy. I have to talk to people. I have to talk to patients, family members, doctors, nurses, right? Like that comes with a lot of challenges that I had to face. And so I just kept putting myself slowly in those situations, and still, talking in front of the class was always still a little difficult. And it wasn't until university where I put myself out there again, started running events, and then I became a TA in grad school and started speaking in front of people and spoke in front of student council and the Senate and the vice provost. And like you just slowly work at it. And although in some cases, like I wish I had the resources and the knowledge to just do stand-up comedy earlier, like I was, because I always wanted to do it, or I always had this admiration for stand-up comics for what they do. And I just said to myself, and this is something that was inspired by Jerry Seinfeld. He said, like, as long as I'm one of those guys, I'm happy. And then I did try stand-up comedy last year for the first time, and yeah, it was that feeling. It's like I did something that I really wanted to do, and I'm one of those guys, which is cool. But the journey from being someone who's so scared of talking, that struggled, struggled all his life talking, to where I am now. Honestly, like the only thing I can say about this story, because I thought about like what can I say? You really have to take the punches. I don't. There's no other advice out there that actually works. Like if you pick a goal and you know you want to do it, you're going to get punched over and over again. And coming from the words of a stand-up comic with a group with a stutter, um, you get punched. Like the punches hurt even more. But at the same time, one of the things I also realized in the experience. Now, if you notice, I'm not really stuttering that much, but most because like I know when to catch myself. I know how to slowly move through the cadence, right? Like so. there's a way or there's a method to expressing yourself. And this comes through speech therapy. This comes through learning to talk on your own, actually, and being comfortable with your own thoughts. These are the things that, like, even this video, I have no script. I'm just literally talking from like my heart. Um, and I don't mind the errors. I don't mind those things because all my life I was just worried about how I came across. And over time, I realized that I was in my own head because a lot of people give me feedback saying like, Bavin, like you can actually like you're quite articulate, you're this and that. I'm just like, oh, really? Like, but it's just me working. I'm so used to not hearing myself talk correctly that you kind of forget. And now when I watch videos of myself, I'm just like in complete disbelief that like this is me, this is Bavin. But yeah, I just took work and self-acceptance and but again, it's those punches, right? And what really, so this is kind of going back to my point where what really helped me with the stand-up comedy was, and this is the tip I have for anyone with a speech impediment who wants to do stand-up comedy. Uh, because I think they can only relate to this statement. I don't think other people can relate to it. Every moment of your life with a speech impediment is a stand-up comedy stage. That's what it felt like, right? Whenever you got rejected, whenever someone interrupted you, or made fun of you and stuff. It was like being on a stand-up comedy stage. So I remember once I bombed and I clued in. I'm like, wait a minute, this is just like my life. Why is this any different? And from then on, I had this like I don't know surge of energy or bravado or some sort of gusto that I had that je ne sais quoi finally that like okay, this isn't that hard compared to what I had to go through in life. And I really mean that, by the way. Like, I I don't compared to the experiences I had in my life, stand-up comedy is very easy compared to what I had to deal with. Like, the hardest thing I ever had to do was in grade eight, speaking in front of my class. 'Cause I lost all my friends through bullying and all that kind of stuff. Again, and I forgave my bullies. We were kids. There's a lot of misunderstandings. Like, it's all good. I have no hate towards these people. But I remember that moment where I lost all my friends, giving a class presentation. My hands were like shaking. And it was about a topic I was super passionate about. And I say passionate, correctly. I have a pet peeve about the word passion. People, you overuse it. The word passion comes from the word suffering. So it's the same etymological root. So you have to suffer for your craft. So this thing I was talking about, I actually suffered for it um, in many ways. And I took it. I stood in front of people. They weren't listening to me, blah, blah, blah. And I did my art. I did my presentation. My teacher was happy. That's all that matters. And that's always been like my bedrock moment. I'm like, nothing's going to be worse than that. To this day, I think about the pain and like what I experienced that year in my life. It still will never compare to my worst bomb on stand up, at least so far anyway. But I don't think you bomb without prep, right? Like you can bomb without prep, but if you prep correctly, you have a strategy to your stand up, it's really hard to bomb. You might fall hard, but you won't like bomb. So that's like the way I kind of frame things in my head. Um, and yeah, like I just feel there isn't more of these stories of like, why did I even do this, right? And there's this quote that I really like. It's like, where you stumble lies your treasure. And I've been avoiding talking on camera, microphones because of my fears. The reason why I have so many fears with it is in speech therapy, we used to video record ourselves, and those are intense memories. And I don't want to hear myself. I don't want to see myself. And I hid behind this sort of veil for a long time. I didn't get over the microphone fear for like another 2 years, maybe 2 years ago, believe it or not. Even though I used them, I spoke with them. The idea of hearing myself and holding it and being in front of people in a short amount of time and all those things, like I was afraid in a lot of different ways. So when I go on stand-up comedy stage, like when I hold a microphone, it's not a tool. It's like a trophy to me. So, and I'm so grateful the opportunity that I've overcome one of my biggest fears, and I'm kind of presenting with it. So, in some ways, like it's like grabbing the dragon's tooth. Like you conquer your dragon and you're able to speak. That comes with a confidence, and I get a lot of feedback with my stand-up comedy saying like, "Bob, you have this comfort or confidence to you that's different," and it's just authentic because it's me literally at like doing something that I never thought I ever do. Like in a million years, like I just never imagined myself doing that kind of activity. And yeah, it's like I mean, and when you're up there, when you have that disbelief, but also not pride, pride's not the right word, but just honor and gratefulness that you're able to do something that's contrary to what the universe kind of gave you just feel great. Like you feel like life becomes worth living for. And that's the ultimate message that I want to share to my fellow speech impediments individuals, especially stutterers, because that's the most empathetic and compassionate I can be. But it's there's I can't even describe it. But if you go contrary to the cards you're dealt with, or you've learned to play life with the cards you're dealt with in a way that even surprises, let's say, God, um, you're going to win and you'll never feel bad about things. Yeah, you'll feel down. There's ups and downs in life, but yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time feeling so depressed now because I'm like I get to like I don't know. I can't even explain it. But I know this feeling exists for a lot of people. Like David Goggins is a good example of this. Like he has that same blissfulness, that same um, joy for life in his way because he's doing something contrary to his nature. And I think that's like where society has failed us a lot in that we're supposed to discover our personal challenge and then go against it and overcome it. And everyone has that challenge, and it may not be obvious to a lot of people. Like mine was obvious to me at the moment I started speaking, but this may be not obvious to you until you're older or the right events in your life happen where suddenly you break as a person and you realize, wait, this is the challenge I have to deal with. So there's a lot of variables to this story, but yeah, I just wanted to just openly talk about from my like from my heart, and I know there's another one of me out there. And if you're a stutterer, especially who wants to do stand-up comedy, go do it. But it will take extra work. It will take extra practice. But the feedback I got on my stand-up comedy after a year now, I'm closing out on a year. They don't think I'm 1 year in. They think I'm like 2 or 3 years in. But I think it's because when you're a stutterer, in your head, you're like, I gotta practice, I gotta practice, I gotta practice. We just anyone with a speech impediment, we're gonna practice more than any other comic. But practice does make you more comfortable up on stage, and that is where you will find your happy place. So, um, I really, at least once in your life, definitely try it. Take a stand-up comedy class, and you might find something that may surprise you. That's all. Thanks, everyone.